Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Newman Beings channel, my vlog type channel that is dedicated to conscious evolution. In today's video, I will be discussing 5 books that I recommend that are all dealing with conscious evolution. Now, this is not a top 5 list. These books are kind of just in random order. And I think the main reason I didn't do a top 5 list is that it would just be way too hard for me to pick 5 books and put them at the very top. I feel like there's way too many, and also with the exception of some of the books that deal with a very specific subject, it would kind of be like comparing apples and oranges. The 5 books I chose for today's list, I chose because I believe they all do a good job of introducing new concepts to general audiences. The first book I want to bring up is this one, and it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe Dispenza is a doctor of biochemistry and neuroscience. And this book is basically what the title implies. It's about how to break habits that are not in our own best interests and build new habits that are more in line with our best interests. In the first half of the book, Dr. Dispenza explains why we have habits and why we continue to act against our own best interest. And he does this in a way where he explains it in terms of biochemistry and neuroscience, like how when we have certain feelings or emotions, our brain actually produces particular chemicals, and those chemicals in turn affect our body, and then our state of our body then affects the thoughts we have, and so on. However, he does this in a way that anyone, even us non-doctors, can understand. In the second half of the book, he explains how we can rewire our own brains and thereby create new habits. This includes meditation practices that you can repeat each day, for example. The next book I want to discuss, I don't have my physical copy here because I loaned it to a friend, but it's called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. This book is a rather short read, but it can be very powerful. It made a huge impact on me. In the book, Don Miguel Ruiz outlines 4 agreements. And these agreements, another way of saying these agreements is 4 commitments, 4 ideals that you can commit to living your life by. And the 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Now, I'm not going to go into each agreement in detail because I want you to pick up the book for yourself and check it out. I will, however, say that the second agreement in particular really has made a noticeable and lasting impact on me. Particularly how I deal with other people, with all other people. And it basically changed my sort of automatic reaction when being in a situation of where someone is either being rude to me or yelling at me or, sort of attacking me in any way. It changed the way I see that from, oh, this person's wrong and I'm right, and even if it isn't a matter of right and wrong, it's just varying opinions, I still need to defend my position and let them know that they're wrong. And it changed me from reacting in that sort of normal way to more of a, hey, this person is acting the way they are because of their life and everything that they've been through up until this point. They've been through years and years of experiences and things that have conditioned their mind to think or react in a certain way. So they're actually just being that way because of them, and it actually has nothing to do with me. And because of that, I really don't get bothered by people who are being rude or upset. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means. I still have reactions here and there, but I definitely, more often than not, am not affected and don't have that sort of reaction anymore. The next book I want to talk about, I also don't have my physical copy here. Not because I loaned it to a friend, but because I just can't find it. I have so many books. I checked my closet. I checked the books in the boxes in my closet. I checked for the boxes in the garage. Just couldn't find the book. Anyways, the book is called The Physics of Miracles, and it's by Dr. Richard Bartlett. Dr. Richard Bartlett was originally a chiropractor who, had his own journey and through circumstances that happened in his own life, he became what I guess we'll just generalize and say is very spiritual. And in this book, he basically breaks down in scientific terms how immediate and radical change is possible, mostly in as far as healing, physical healing for disease or injuries, chronic pain, things like that. But it also goes beyond that. It extends to things like even finances, for example. People who find themselves in desperate financial situations, or their business or their income is struggling. They actually come to create change, drastic and quick change in their lives through miracles. And despite Dr. Bartlett using a lot of terms that you could say have to do with quantum physics, he does so in a way that anyone can understand. And he basically explains it in terms of how consciousness affects the way in which energy organizes itself into different patterns to create what we perceive as reality. I believe anyone who reads this book with an open mind can come to a whole new understanding of what is possible in their lives. And basically understanding that what we call miracles or miraculous change is real and is possible, and it does happen. The next book I want to discuss, I also don't have a physical copy here, but it's because I own the book on audiobook actually, and so I've never actually read it, but I've listened to it many times. And the book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And this is a book I mentioned in my first video. The Power of Now is a book that is so powerful. I would almost say it's essential for pretty much everyone in this day and age. If I had to pick one book that everyone should read or would have to read, it would be this book. And that's because it basically takes conscious human evolution and breaks it down in a way that anyone can understand. In the book, Tolle not only explains how, but why we need to proceed to the next stage of our own evolution. And it does so in such practical terms. He outlines things that anybody can do, steps that anybody can start taking right now to free themselves from these dominating mind patterns that everyone seems to have. It explains to the reader why things like meditation and disidentification from our own mental patterns is not just for monks or spiritual people, but is something that can benefit anyone. For example, he outlines a very simple process in this book of becoming the watcher of your own thoughts. To pay attention to what's going on in your head and just sort of observe it objectively. And what this does is help you break mental habits. It wasn't until after I read this book that I was actually able to quit smoking cigarettes. I was able to break free of my addiction to nicotine with the help of this book, because it showed me how to really disconnect and identify when I had cravings. And basically what would happen is I got to the point where instead of letting these cravings take over and consume me and determine my actions, I was able to look at the cravings objectively and be like, hey, there's the craving right there, and here I am over here. And thus I was able to finally quit smoking after years of trying. The last book on this list is this one. I actually have a physical copy of it. Ha! And this book is book 1 in the Conversations with God series by Neale Donald Walsh. As I mentioned in my first video, I did actually read this when it was kind of new back in the 90s, but I was obviously a lot younger then. Although I was able to understand it and grasp it, I don't think I was mature enough to where I was actually committing to the ideas brought forth in this book, and thereby my life didn't really change. It did open up a lot of new beliefs for me, but like I said, probably wasn't ready for it at that time back then. This book makes this list because it does a good job of really introducing some groundbreaking models of who we are as people and our society at large, and why there's so much unhappiness and so much conflict. So basically in this book, Neale Donald Walsh has a conversation with God. And what I really like about the first book, he really asks those questions that I imagine most people would want to ask God, given the opportunity. Questions like, why is my life so hard and full of struggle? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why is the world in the shape that it's in? And if you're real and you're all powerful, why don't you just fix things? And these aren't the questions verbatim, but these are, things that he does ask. And the really cool thing about this book, and why I strongly recommend it, is that the answers to all these questions they're answered in such a way that really make you go, oh, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. More than I could have imagined. This book series, I believe, does an excellent job of sort of shaking up our ingrained modern perceptions and understandings of who we are, and prepares us for new ways of looking at things and what it would really take from us to change for the better as individuals and as a species. So there it is, my first list of 5 books that I recommend, all dealing with conscious evolution. I will be making more videos like this. There are more books I want to cover, and there are actually other forms of media that I will be making videos on similar to this, things like movies, for example. So yeah, stay tuned for more videos like this one. If you have already read any of the books that I mentioned in this list today, feel free to leave your own thoughts on them in the comments section below. Thank you so much for giving this channel your time and attention once again this week. As I've said, liking this video or subscribing to my channel does just take a click of the mouse on your part, but it does a great deal for me and this channel and what I hope to accomplish with it. So until next week, thank you again, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. One love.